Well, alright. Round of applause for the game, please. Before I call out Messi to give us the background of today's, I want to challenge our daddy, Dagga Tolar, that we need this young poet to engage in poetry slams like Koramo, Napap. This talent has to go out. People need to know about this talent because for about like October, November. There were like a series of poetry slams, about 500,000, 1 million. And I will even spot you in one of the events. So, sir, this is the challenge I will hope to see next year, getting more young poets to engage and participate. So, moving on to the next one, we call out Messi Kelani, the project coordinator and the chairman, who is going to be giving us the background of today's project.
Good afternoon, everyone. I hope you're all happy to be here today. Yeah, I am glad to be here. If you're happy to be here, say I am happy. Oh, okay, you're happy boys and girls, so don't do that. Alright, so the CORA BookTrek is brought to you by the Committee for Relevant Arts, CORA. CORA was founded in 1991, and CORA is one of the biggest, if not the biggest, cultural organization in Nigeria. CORA organizes the annual Lagos Book and Arts Festival that happens at Freedom Park every November. CORA is a cultural landscapist. CORA organizers and cultural landscapists. They are concerned and passionate about the arts, about culture, the promotion of culture, the advocacy of culture, the promotion of education, promotion of literacy, which is why we are here today. And CORA BookTrek is an initiative of CORA, and the aim of the CORA BookTrek is to educate, to empower, and to enlighten young people, youth, and teenagers. The aim is to let us be aware, to make us aware and conscious of happenings around us, of societal happenings, to open our understanding, to increase our consciousness and our awareness, so we are not ignorant of happenings around us, politically, socially, and even economically. So today, I want every one of us here to prepare our minds to be educated. So today, we are going to be doing 3 things. You're going to be, not doing exactly, you're going to be receiving 3 things. You're going to be receiving education, you're going to be receiving empowerment, and you're going to be enlightened today. So I want us to be ready for it, and let's sit back, relax, enjoy the program. I'm ready to learn, unlearn, and relearn today.
Do not expect to be treated with kindness. The snare, the bully, they are hapless. My philosophy I breathe to life that retained my pride. The segregation from their philosophical madness that puts you deeper into ignorance and blindness. You behave mad only when you defy the fiction of book you become willing to discuss, you never do. So like Elsa, you must face the sea not to get frozen in their web. You see this abuser will always be discriminated. Look them in the eyes and be there to fight them, for you are in for meeting. And then we can finally see waters of our ancestors washed ashore. The constant cutting of hair only reminds you, man, you are a slave, either with gold or iron or scriptures, you are chained. So when they come with their names of torment, you tell them, I accept. I am the aspirant of fact and check. Tell the commander the nature of atheism, the commander general of my life. I am the next man. Thank you.
Another poetry performance. I'm so glad today because we are seeing so many bright stars today, so many up-and-coming and big spoken word artists today. So I'm going to call on Sarah to also give us our poetry performance. A round of applause for her now.
My name is Sarah. The nature of my business, blood on the street. Voices raised in a protest cry, echoes of anguish reaching the sky. Dead bodies lies along the street, a dream reminder of the price to meet. The cry of the people are called to stand against the injustice that takes a hand without a fight. But still they fall like catch of leaves, their dreams and hope lost in the breeze. The streets run red with the blood of the brave. Their voice is silent, but their memory stays. The protest cry a call to unite against the darkness that takes life without a fight. But still our leaders turn a blind eye as the country burns and the future dies. Economic crumbles, the people suffer. Innocent life wasted like grain of sand in the desert. Every day a new name added to the list of life cut short by senseless violence and mist, their dreams and hope lost in the void, as we protest but the system ignores. The cry of the people fall on deaf ears, but the powerful shed crocodile tears. But we won't be silent, we won't give up the fight for a better tomorrow where life is held in sight. Thank you.
A round of applause for him. I want to appreciate all the authors, or the poets rather, for giving us this stupendous poem, to resonate with the book we'll be looking at today. And moving on to the introduction of the poet, the man of today, Dagga Tolar. And I have a few things to say about him today. We all know that he's the author of this book we are celebrating today, also the poet. He's an activist, a spokesperson for the movement of socialist alternative. A round of applause as I welcome Dagga Tolar to the stage. Thank you, sir. Yes, we're giving a short insight to the book, the inspiration behind the book. But there are things we need to know before we engage with our questions. Thank you. Over to you, sir.
Well, thank you very much. I'm more than honored to be given this grand opportunity to explain the writing of this text. The first question would be to ask myself why outside this cemetery. And seen from another angle, we say why this cemetery in the first instance. Why is this country a cemetery? That would be another form of giving this title. Of course, the country is Nigeria. There's other space referred to. But interestingly, it extends beyond the space called Nigeria to enwrap the entirety of colonial Africa, indeed the whole of the universe. Death can't be taken out of life, nor can we attempt to take life out of death itself. So where does life begin? Where does death begins? This collection attempts to examine all of this in full details. But specifically, the entirety of the materials that has defined this text takes its origin from our own existence, how we are forced to live in a country that ought to define existence for all of us, to make our lives more better, and to be happy that we are citizens of this country. But the reverse is actually the case. As we move from one chapter of our human existence to another chapter of our human existence, we behold ourselves in a theater that can be characterized with no other word, than the 8-letter words that define this text, cemetery. As we speak currently, the globe is enraged with wars in Europe, as seen in Ukraine. There's also war going on in the Middle East. Indeed, the long-forgotten wars in Congo, in Ethiopia and Eritrea, in the whole of the Sahel region, where a series of Islamic fundamentalist groups, are not just armed, they are engaged in terrorist acts of kidnapping and presiding over mineral resources in the enclaves in which they control. Interestingly, the coups in Burkina Faso, Mali, Niger, we are defined on the basis of this war that is going on in all of those areas. And yet, what is war to human existence, if not an instrument of war of death? In this collection, we'll meet with two different characters, and if you don't mind me, let me start reading. Without any flesh, without any bone to call my own. Now that everything is over, they are having a party, welcoming them back. I can hear their songs and noise. Their tears of joy excites me, but I cannot be a part of it. I, who was the very first to enlist, they did not invite me. Now, this poem, titled "They Did Not Invite Me," it was Dele Faruti in his book before this latest book, who said it's titled "Don't Fight in Their Wars," and this poem echoes that same sentiment. Because yes, somebody that gave all his all to a war, he is dead, obviously, as a consequence of the war. And yet there is celebration going on, whether for the victorious camp after the war, or for those who are celebrating that the war is what? It's over. Then what is the whole essence for all of those who are dead when the war has come to what? To an end? And it speaks to you that even the wars we see today in Ukraine, the Israel-Palestine war, the attempt by Israel, to create a buffer zone for itself, are not wars defined by love for life. They are not wars defined by love for peace, but they are wars defined for some primitive, private interests. Depending on how you want to call it. You can choose to wax religiously in the Middle East and say that it is God, fighting for his holy people, as if the rest of us who are not citizens of Israel are only children of God. The target was missing without me knowing that the bullet shot was lost inside me. Again too, this is another person who has died as a result of the war situation. In these two poems, there is a sense of consciousness in these two people who are dead. But they are all victims of war, of wars. And these wars, whatever purpose you want to define what those wars are, the collection points out that too many people who should be alive, are dead. For no other reasons than for some reasons that people who have brought about wars, have used those bases to define the wars they've carried out in their wars. I've just read two poems. I can go on and read as many poems. The very first poem in the collection, the very first poem, which shares a title, which shares a word in the title, is titled, "My Head is a Cemetery." My head is a cemetery. Every head carries a country on its head. My own head is a cemetery, heavily powered by dusty, shrilling bones of aging dead bodies waiting out time to rot, pressed on by fresh cuts with no patience for the waiting beam of baton passing, to be diseased of all traces of existence, to lead and make room for new arrivals. This order of death into deity, defying dying, defining the country as a being, not a being, is everywhere with me and me alone, with my head of a cemetery. Busting thoughts to always distance life away from my country, to not be for me. Then no words formed, once feed mentally on my thoughts, plagued by insightful desires to have me insane, to carry my own grave everywhere I go, inside my own head. And it's one of the early poems in this collection. Written, if you return back to the page, I think that particular poem was written in 1990. Written in 1990 or 91, 92. And that poem, for me, defines one of the first process of commencing this collection. It was Olarotimi who wrote in one of his classic plays, a book titled The Living Dead, where he likens human beings as walking corpses. And yet, for people who are from working class environments, as much as they wake up, they sleep, they see the sunlight, they sleep and wake up the next day, in reality, they live a life in pursuit of emptiness, of complete nothingness, which makes them nothing different in reality than a living corpse. It is within this context that when we meet with this particular character in the first poem, who sees his own existence as not any different from the cemetery, and to live the life of the cemetery is to see yourself with practically no purpose in life, to live for practically nothing. Why oxygen, the breath of life, remains with you? The truth is that the entire pursuit of existence, is aimed at the end of the day to a grave. We must distinguish the death and the cemetery referred to in this text from that mortal death that will confront every human being. Because like we learned even from our elementary basic science, every living thing in the world will die. The death referred to in this text is distinct and different from that natural mortality, the circle with which all things, living and non-living things, will go through. Some too will die at a particular time. What we see as stars from our own distance are actually, carcasses or sons waiting to die at the end of the day. So it is not that death, it is not that mortality referred to here. The death we refer to in this text, in reality, is the death that society and countries have chosen to constitute themselves, making themselves into instruments, giving death to human beings who seek life, who seek existence. It is that death that we refer to here. So people must not assume or make the error to assume that this is a propagation for the living existence of what of death, because death itself is a living existence that can't be wiped away. But it is the death here refers to a state, a society, a country, refers to some categories of human beings who can only define their own existence on the basis of dishing out death to the rest of all of us. To be a woman and be alive and be pregnant, is to suffer the snare of death. Pregnancy ought to be a celebration, for existence. But go through the statistics. Nigeria has the highest maternal mortal rates. For every pregnant, for every 1,000 women that are pregnant, 157 of them will die. For no reason particularly than the state of this country, than the state of the health facility support of this country. And that is not where the death rate begins or ends. You move away from maternal mortality, you come to infant mortality. Again, Nigeria has the highest numbers of infant children who die. It has the highest numbers compared to statistics, because they will give you figures from India and China. But Nigeria is 0.2 billion. China is 1.4 billion. We are not even up to 0.4 of China's or 0.2 of India. So we can't be comparing our figures. And indeed, when you compare the infant mortality rate in a place like China and India, you'll be amazed at the statistics. So it is from here that this society, this country, the way it is organized, begins to feed us with death. Having lost my own faith and my own religion, so it's practically difficult to begin to attribute one's survival to any miraculous ability. But yet, as somebody who was born during the Civil War, when my mother narrates her own bitter experience of how I was able to survive my own early infancy and to have grown to become an adult, the word to say would be to use the religious expression a miracle, because she said she was not able to afford a flat, and she had to be driven away from the only hospital in this neighborhood at that period, at her papa, and she returned back home, to midwife herself to death. My father was not around. He was in the Civil War. He had been entrapped and was in the Civil War. He was sending money home, but interestingly, the money, not a single dime, was getting to my mom. So my mom was completely coverless when she gave birth to me. She midwifed herself in a room. She bleeded the whole day. It took a friend of my father to come visiting, to provide, and according to her, for close to 72 hours before she gave birth, she had not even eaten anything. And you hear the story. This is not just the Europe. This is as late as 1968. But yet, there are more horrific stories. And these horrific stories are clearly expressed in the figures of maternal mortality and infant mortality that continue to occur in this country. And from every step of the way of this country offers unending cemeteries to more and more of our lives. Survive childhood, there is the old question of education. In fact, as you move from one's phase of existence in Nigeria, it is this same dishing out of death that you are confronted with. You go to the north, the harrowing experience of out of children's school, the millions of young people who are beggars on the street, who have to literally beg before they can feed daily. These are crimes against existence. And we can begin to put statistics at the figures of people who died on the basis of the conditions in the north. But yet the condition in the north is not just in the north. It's growing and it's entrapping the southern part of the country more and more. The huge war of the desertification, not just the desertification in the north that's encroaching, as the desertification in the north grows, herders and cattle rearers have been forced to migrate with their cattle. And all of this has created intense crisis of conflict into the eastern part of the country and indeed into the western part of the country, again increasing the numbers of people who should not die, who have to die on the basis of all of this movement. If my bones rest in a grave, what will they do with my bones? Will they return them to my mother? Will she not flesh them and soul me back to existence? Not when fear still rules their heart. To the dogs my bones will go. If my bones rest in a grave, I am honored. The struggle was not for nothing. Of course, my own existence too is not outside of the discovery of the ideas of Marxism. And that in itself has defined the entirety of my activism since my adult existence. Joining a socialist organization when I was doing my NYSC in 1991, and moving in the ranks of that organization to become the general secretary of the DSM and now what is known as the Movement for Socialist Alternative, has allowed me to play intense role in the entirety of the working class movement in Nigeria, in the series of general strikes, in the series of the necessity to struggle for ordinary people to have a political party of their own. So that particular poem do not just define me as a person, but it defines all of those humans all through history who have given their lives, for the immortal cause of wanting society to be transformed. When Ken Starua was murdered, executed, others will want to use the word, as one of the leading environmental activists, crying out against the stagnant, oil pollution that was going on in the Niger Delta. The military regime then led by Bashar that presided over his execution ensured that acid were poured on his remains so that at no time again will his bones be unheated. So you can't begin to imagine all of the people all through history who have been assassinated, for striving for a justified cause for society to be transformed, for taking on the ruling class in different eras. And that struggle has continued up to this very moment and will continue even when we cease to exist. So for me, that poem that I've just read, if you find my bones resting in a grave, they give echoes, to some very few individuals who have been honored. Marx has a grave over his head in London, which has been the site of a lots of, foreign trips. There are one of the choicest places to visit if you're in the city of London is to go behold, where somebody like Karl Marx was buried. This was somebody when he died, you had only 11 persons at his burial ceremony, led by his friend Friedrich Engels. And in fact, when he died, he never thought thought that his ideas will encapsulate the entirety of the whole of the working class movement in Europe, will become the basis of the revolution in the Soviet, in Russia in 1917, and will spur a lot of ideas, even in the literal acts, as well. And it speaks to the essence and importance of one's existence. Because what is life? If life is not centered around, ensuring that there is life and more life on the face of planet Earth. And I do not, include or delude myself with any religious illusion as to what happens to any person or anything when anything dies, after existence. It is defined, life itself is defined by the life we live. Even for those who say Christ is a fictional character, that life of Christ is defined by what has been written about how he lived his life, not about what is happening to him anywhere people think he is, at any moment. So, at the end of the day, we must not think that this is a celebration of death. Indeed, it's a celebration of what? Of life from another angle. It draws out the pains people are about to go through, in the struggle, to make life a better place. This poem, page 7, says, "Don't read me. Don't read me if you are afraid of death. Don't even try at me with a long spoon. For how will you guard the cemetery inside of yourself and live? Unable to liberate your heads from what they have, from what they say of me. It would be wrong not to spit on my face for poisoning words and making language uncomfortable and manners ungovernable to the tongue of the dead. All of this my uncommonly untimely death by this cemetery of the country, as if death in the end is not a gift of nature, but the enriching of the future of soil and earth. Who the hell do I think I am, if not another mere sack of flesh and bone?" And of course, this speaks at the end of the day to those who think that their lives, their flesh and bones, of any particular essence. Give the lamb to the dead. This is one other poem I think I should read. Give the lamb to the dead. The pastor said if they love God, they must build on the land a church. They don't love death, and I say they must give land to the dead. The pastor preached that God is good. Trust him, he's capable of all things. Build him a house and see if the jobless will not be provided with a job. The undertaker. What about the undertaker? Nobody was ready to listen. Being a community, the pastor's position prevailed on the people. They agreed on their love for God, and so on the land they decided to build a church. The carpenter who was given the job came the next morning with his tools and his ladder. As he mounted it, fell and broke his skull, spilled his blood and died. And so they called in the undertaker, who had to dig his remains a grave on the very land they had intended to build a church. For indeed, they loved God. But not long after, the pastor also died. His soul was grieved. He had not a church to himself and his God. The undertaker gave him a grave by the side of the carpenter on the very land the church would have stood. I oblige him my last respect, only to remember death. Death requires not our love, but our souls and the body. But then, not to become an offense, we must give the land to the dead. Well, it's an indirect way of taking on religion. Page 51. When light cannot see my face. When light cannot see my face, the pale fear I wear, and chooses to secret itself in the dark to live. Tell me, friend, how can you hate me enough to die? For only then can I live. I can see all the light there is in the sun to see and no danger. when light cannot see the face? I cannot understand. Every other thing you want, we invented at home where we die if we go to. You know, in the pursuit to not die. In our mad pursuit to think that we are not going to die, we invented God, we invented religion, we invented heaven, where we will go so that we will not die. You know, so we have been educated to think that death is something that we should not invite into our homes and we shouldn't invite in our lives. In a place like Mexico, they have this festival known as Festival of the Dead, which is in reality it's a recycling of word of life. And these traditions used to exist before Western and Arabic, before Christianity and Islam became the dominant force in a lot of African societies. So the dead is not separated from a place of residence. In some villages, you still have people burying their older remains near the house. In the village I come from, my father is buried in the house. You know, you see all of his brothers. It is the sisters. The sisters are not buried in that compound. That is a different question on its own. But you can see all the men, they are buried in the compound, and we all sit there and we don't think that we are living in a grave. So we do not see the dead as separate from us. So for me, for that poem, don't read me, speaks to the normal existing attitude to death, where we think we must distance ourselves from what? From the things that has to do with what? With the dead.
My question will actually go like this. Yeah, so the poem, They Did Not Invite Me. Yeah, that poem, at some point, I didn't actually get the whole thing that was being passed, like the whole message that was being passed out. So I just want like more clarification on the poem.
Maybe I should read it again. They did not invite me. The combat was bloodless, only to the extent that I was not invited. I did not feel anything at the loss of my soul. I returned no longer to my home, for I was now homeless to my very soul, without any flesh, without any bone to call my home. Now that everything is over, they are having a party, welcoming them back. I can hear their songs and noise. Their tears of joy excite me, but I cannot be a part of it. I, who was the very first to enlist, they did not invite me. They did not invite me. I think I don't want to use the word, it's an attempt to announce a regret, by someone who is becoming conscious of the fact that he's no longer alive. But he could see, the war is over, there's excitement, there's joy. Depending on which side you want to be, whether I want to be on the victorious camp, there's excitement, people are happy, people are going on and on about the end of the war and all of that. But in that excitement, he feels that he cannot be part of it. And in not being part of it, he becomes conscious of the fact that, yes, I'm what? I'm dead. So it's that subtle way, to come to a recognition. Because first, he recognizes that the war is over. He recognizes that some people are celebrating, people are happy, and everyone has to be. But all of this excitement is happening all around him, and he can't begin to find himself as part of that war excitement. And in not being part of that excitement, it comes to recognition. Why am I not part of this excitement? Why am I not invited? I was the first one that wanted to go and fight in this war. So why didn't they not invite me to be part of this party? You can give a series of interpretations. Come to Nigeria. All of those who voted for Mr. President in the last election, They have not been invited to be ministers, to be part of the looting that is going on. So they are outside of it. But in a complete depth sense now, it is in the sudden awareness. It's a gradual form of awareness to the fact that you have been left with nothing. Even when you have given everything to this war, to this victory that is currently being celebrated. And I think, to fall back to daily family, don't fight their war for them. The ruling class, are in a constant mortal war against all of us. But the way they fight themselves is that they use us to fight. They use us to fight ourselves, to win their wars for what? For themselves. It could be the wars of electoral victory. It could be the wars of this land belongs to me. It could be the war of that this presidency should be me, and all of the rest. All of these wars are not wars for free education, are not wars for the fact that every child must go to school. They are not wars for life and more life. And that's the only war I think I want to be able to fight it like that. The war for life and more life. The war for the resources of the earth to be shared in a way and manner, that all human beings, all living things, in fact, not just human beings, all living things will have access to all of the resources, all of the things they need to be alive. Because we must not think that in our religious dominions that God has given us order over all things. No! All living things have the right to be alive and to have a share of existence of everything that is what? That is nature. So I don't know if that answers that for you.
Did you feel the anguish of, the out of school children? Did you feel maybe a moment of joy or happiness when you was reading the poem? How did you feel? How does the poem, speak to you? It speaks to us in different ways, right? So I would need somebody. One person must talk.
I can say that I can chapter it into like 4 to 5 things or up to 10 things that this poem is saying, and that is one unique thing about Dagga's poem. You can interpret it. You can see yourself inside this poem, and that is why if you are reading a poem, I'm talking to Chidude now because he asked a question that he doesn't get the poem. So you can read other things, other materials that are related to this poem, and then this poem can flash in your mind and say, yes, this is what this is saying, and this is what that is saying. And concerning the mood of this poem, I think the mood of this poem is that we are all
contributing to the narrative given by the Western and the Europeans. But now we can see ourselves fighting ourselves within the country. Now, what is the prospects as an alternative narrative to this in optimistic way? You have given us a picture of a kind of a warlord going on in the community. So, what's the alternative solution or alternative narrative? If you want to write another one, if it's possible to write another one, not to counter this, but to give a kind of a solution or what's the other narrative you can give to this?
Well, interestingly, in the woodwork is a collection titled City of Dead Dreams, which hopefully will be ready in this new year. What I'm actually doing is that I'm coming out with 10 collections. I should say 11 with City of Dead Dreams. And 8 or 9 of those collections are ready. They're just going through more and more constant reading, editing, and all of the rest. This is just 2 of those collections, long notes like this. Hopefully between now and February, all of those 10 collections will out. So one will continue that engagement. But the question you have just posed is, what is the alternative? And the alternative in reality is not poetry. So we must not think that poetry is an alternative. And the reason I say this is that action speaks louder than words.
Please do forgive me, for it was a making beyond my control. What has happened to me and why I am no more, I will try to explain. Not that your mother will tell a false tale, but because I want to plead my own cause, plead my case before you and win you, to understand who your father was. For all I did was to take a stand, to side with life, on the very edge of the battle line, crusading against all the enemies of life. I was caught and my soul was up, away forever from life. The very life I fought for, I lost. What do I say to you? That you should not do the things I did, that you should not say the things I said, or that you should try to understand everything I have said and written. Everything I have done, for then you would know me. You would get to know your father, and then be happy that I was your father. A man who with his life pleaded the cause of life, that all might live and reap from life's abundance. Thank you.
A round of applause for please. Thank you for the wonderful reading. Moving on to Divine, who will be reading There's No Longer Address, Now I Am Dead. A round of applause.
Dead no longer rest. The dead no longer rest, for the world around is all around is a haunt. The lost remains in forest place by new dead. Rich enough to afford the space, but then all is not safe. Cemented or not. Night is time of sweet acts. Recovered the glory, the clothes and lights. Golden half a mingling dead soul can go up. This country of cemetery and cash and only darkness tell. Daylight which is all we listen to would not betray this bone sweat. Has coming from the cemetery of the country. So I will begin now as a dead. You swallow my tail of resistance so that my head no longer can pick up your presence, and now I'm dead. With the whole of me in you, but where's the whole of you free and free on me, stubborn, and thought from the bottom would not let you come here. The me of my head, even though dead. I can still raise the land, walk off your flesh with your hand, and turn them into bones. To have you as the object of another day's fun.
And also moving on to another reader, Gifts. A round of applause for please. It's not easy to come up and read. We celebrate our age Dagga Tolar.
Today, okay, this poem is titled Learning to Keep My Peace. In my new abode of apartment, just enough to loosen my flesh and allow my bones to full stretch. I am trying hard not to grow worthy until I know what the law says, how it works here, and if it's an offense, what punishment would I have to face? What death cell is made of? And if money could do all those tricks, it does above below here. If ever the police gets to arrest me, but for now I am learning to keep my peace, since I still have my flesh around me. The one seems to be busy in the other compartment that came before me. Here we take turns accordingly. I don't know what else to say, but truly I no longer have a say. Not to worry, I have had more than enough of my own say alive. Call it poetry, by whatever name. You may now call it, they were all I had to say, and they will continue to be with you. The second poem is World Small Things. What is used a mirror, underground in the depths, flesh lay prostrate. Hand cannot handle a box. What is there to see? With nowhere out there. No space or sound crossed up. Nothing here can stand up. Can stand tall. All the eyes there is to see. The sun time. A lot of all things to sound. Thank you.
So second reading from page 39 and 40 if I hold rest.
I'm reading from page 39 and 40. If my bones rest in a grave, and the cry of bones. So starting with if my bones rest in a grave, what would they do with my bones? Would they return them to my mother? Would she not fetch them and sew me back to existence? Not when fierce lose their heart. To the dogs my bone will go. If my bones rest in a grave, I am honored. The struggle was not forgotten. So down to the cry of bones. If the cry of my bones, hang them out of my rotten flesh, a new life will be. Only poetry is forever, even life in heaven if they don't bring God. Outside the letters of words, the imagination can imagine sceneries in sightless silence, like death waiting, not counting out a sight to what wants to life. Dry my bones, hang them out of my rotten flesh, this is no new life. Only poetry is forever, outside of death, outside of ever. Thank you.
A round of applause to encourage our program. Okay, so I really loved that last poem that you read, and I loved the second stanza, or the second and last stanza. Only poetry is forever, even life in heaven is a dawn dream gone. I'll take the last stanza. Only poetry is forever, outside of death, outside of heaven. Can someone volunteer to come outside and tell me what that stanza means? Especially this refrain, only poetry is forever. Nobody. But I thought we all love these points now. Only poetry is forever, even in life. Okay, even life in heaven is a dawn dream gone. Okay, I would explain, and I'll still call on somebody to come outside and tell me what I've said and how the person understands it. I'll just pick anybody, so listen carefully, listen attentively. So now, only poetry is forever. A writer said something that as human beings, if we want to be remembered forever, we should write a book. Why? Because when you die, you've gone. The houses you built on earth will not help people remember you. The number of cars you have will not let people remember you. But by contributing to the society, you've written a book that inspires people, that speaks to people, and that book remains forever. After you've grown up, you've grown old, you have children and grandchildren, and you've gone 7 feet under, your book will remain. People will still buy your book. People who do not know you will still read your book. Okay, look at Chinua Achebe now. Chinua Achebe is no longer here on earth with us, but we still read Chinua Achebe's book. Everybody in Nigeria, across Africa, in fact, in the whole world, know Chinua Achebe. There's nobody who does not know Chinua Achebe in Africa. At least I know that I know, and in Nigeria especially. So Chinua Achebe's book has outlived him. So if you want people to know and remember you long after you're gone, decades and centuries after you're gone, write a book. And that's what this stanza is telling us, that only poetry is forever. Anything else you've done in life, okay, the number of awards you have and everything, yeah, they might outlive you to some extent, but only your book. If you write poetry, only your poetry will travel out of Nigeria. In fact, most times, your books, the books that you've written, travel before you out of the country. So if you want to immortalize yourself, you want people to always remember you, write something and put it out there. Let people know that, okay, yes, this is what I'm using to support the society, to impact society, to drop my own quarter to the society, to improve lives. Because when you write a book and someone picks it up to read and the book inspires the person, you improve the life of that person. You've impacted the life of that person without even knowing the person directly. So yeah, that's what it's saying. So I'm going to call on one person to come and explain what I've said again to me, to come and tell me what it means that poetry is forever. Okay, I'll give you one chance to volunteer, then I'll call somebody. Nobody. I want to call somebody that has not spoken. Who has not spoken? Yes. The lady in Lemon, you've not spoken yet. Yeah, come for what's your name? Eniola. Everybody say Annie. I know I can't get that one. Annie. Great.
Hello, Annie. What I understood that what she said, even if you write like the piece is going to like proud. The book is going to travel before it, so well, you get
Please, a round of applause for her. At least coming down symbolize something. Okay, before we move on to the section of the book where Dagga Tolar gives the opportunity to get the author from the book, I noticed something in the registration. I found out that majority of our attendees today are from AJ House of Poetry, right? Yes. Which means we have great performers, right? We have great artists among us. So this is a platform here, probably 1 or 3 poems performed by one of the young Nobel laureates in the future who's going to be beating the record of Wale Soyinka, Ajegunle, Dagga. So if you don't observe me to mentioning names, I want to ready? Okay, what I call our junior who's going to give us another performance of his poem, then followed by Gabriel. So Gina, a round of applause for Gina who's coming out to the place. So that was going to lead us directly to the signing of the book. Please, after the performance, please make sure you jam message to appreciate.
So the title of this poem I'm going to be reading is Dead Moment. Listen, I will hear the cries of an innocent child with blood on his palms weeping. I am not the one. Listen closer. I will hear the fading heartbeat of a soul more than the cold blood. You also hear the fading breathing of the body about to take its last breath. Now look. I need to see a procession. A casket being open. The closed body with closed open eyes and freezing palms that can never get to run. Look closer. I need to see a grave. The shallow hole down to the bottom. The casket being lowered and shoulders holding side. Look closer. I need to see men in red and black. That's the dance of the dead man, chanting to the gods of the land, the gods that seek the soul of the dead. Finally, look closer. I need to see a knife. Blood-stained clothes, a pool of black blood, and a dead man. Thank you.
Okay, since you've done the poem of death, I think let me also do this. When your life flashed before your eyes, you feel pain when you hum to that breath that makes you feel conscious. You feel soulless when the soul decides to embrace the body from conscious. You fight to live for the ones you love, but your body and soul fight to live because this pain is not lovely. The fight for your life is like 1 against 100, but your loved ones are few like 500. But this moment you will never dread, with your eyes blazing crimson red. Come to think of it that the football pitch, because even when you rise your pitch, no one will hear you among thousands who preach that heaven is the only way to end this suffering. But let's run away from the ticket that catapults you out of this suffering. But I tell you, the only way to endure and embrace this pain is through your conscience. Yelling out to you in the deepest part of your heart, telling you that accomplish those goals you set for yourself. Then you forever find peace that you never cease and rest in peace. Thank you.
Thank you. Dagga Tolar has already opened the platform through the poem, and you can see our other poems.
She doesn't look for the fear of drowning in her fears. Her survival knocks on the door of her senses. Her body thought time to trouble, therefore it shall bring her out. She deepens the cord on her wrist and puts the blessings in fear. She breaks out, but is still caged in uncertainty. She drowns in the ocean filled with death. Too weak to feel, she eats like a vertical sponge. She dies with pigs. She takes in the nasty pill. Until she can't no more, she backs it all up. Then use her pen and paper to clean it up.
Just when you have a phrase, and you can give birth to billions of novels. So I'm going to take my time to read this poem. It's very, very short. I'm going to take my time to read this poem. And before, I'm not calling us to sit down for the signing of the book. And at the same time, also to answer a few questions. We all die, sake of the testament of truth. Life is the right to die, for outside of the breath of life. Dagga Tolar.
Thank you very much.
This is the shortest poem in this anthology.
Are you sure?
And if I want to put this particular poem to be like one sentence, that's a 2 sentences, just 1 sentence. What inspiration behind this before we move directly to the signing of the book?
I think we'll forever pose this question: what is the truth? But in most cases, this simple statement is to say that all of the versions of what we refer to as truth, at the end of the day, are nothing else than lies. That once truth stands, we will all die. And for those who die out to only give a testament of truth, they are only going to find out that life itself is a lie in all of its essence. So, my Oga, you are free to read this poem, and employ your reader's license, to say this is what it is. So the writer has already used his own poetic license, to like, to enjoy, and think whatever you want to think about, of course. But at the end of the day, it's those who tell us that they are dying for one thing about life. They tell us as if they come to live forever in the first instance.
That's actually while we are still preparing the table for the signing of the book. This poem, I want to take one question because I want to start my question saying this poem, after the cemetery not my country, what is the social impact this poem has, regarding the contemporary society we have now? This, let's say our generation, known as Gen Z, might not, fully grasp the understanding or the concept this anthology stands for. So what is the sociological and societal impact?
I completely disagree with you on that. Because this generation has already made its mark. There was the EndSARS protest, there was the EndSARS protest, there was the End Bad Governance protest, and there was the October 1 protest. All through those protests, the Gen Z was announcing itself as a generation that is willing to stand out against the entirety of what this cemetery is. Even up to the point as depicted by the shootings and killing at the toll gate. So to say that they don't understand would be an understatement. They are coming to a realization, they are coming to a consciousness. What you should say is that how do we meet this emerging movement to point it out that Well, the problem is not that we have bad leaders. And Chebe gave us a classic, the trouble with Nigeria. There he maintains that the problem with Nigeria is leadership. No! Leadership is just a part of that problem. Because if you run with that philosophy, you will say that, yes, old people are the problem, let young people rule the country. No! It is the ideas with which society is governed that is the problem currently. And that is what needs to be changed. It is this capitalist system, it is this colonial system that is the problem. It is this imperial system that is the problem. So we must meet with this generation. Yes, you are correct. They must be engaged. But to say that they are not already thinking politically, that they are already thinking that this system needs to be confronted, that would be an entire, that would be a no. People are confronting it. People are already understanding that nothing will come out of this republic. And having taken the turn from the north to the south, those who think that the northerners are the problem because they are trained by Arabs, they have Islam, they are terrorists inclined, now they have one of their own, the Miloko. So that again will provide a consciousness for another layers. So what we must pose is that this generation of young people needs to be engaged. There is a need to produce revolutionary leadership. And there can be no revolutionary leadership without revolutionary program. And there is no other revolutionary program that is outside of the ideas of scientific society. All of the other attempts of all manners of ideas to play that role have failed, have collapsed. Those who critique the ideas of Marx by pointing to the collapse of the Soviet Union have not countered the fact that capitalism has not resolved its contradiction. Capitalism remains, yes, it is building new empires, but those new empires are being built on crates of millions of people. Just like the empire that Israel will build in the Middle East is being built on the graves and bones of children of Arabs. Call them Palestine, call them Syria, call them whatever you want to call them. It is to the fact that the only truth there is that we will all die.
Thank you, please. A round of applause for me. Are we ready? Message. Alright, so moving on to the signing of the book, to the program that the students one after the other to have the honors autograph of the author. Yeah. So
So thank you so much for coming. Okay, it's nice to serve you guys what already. So we'll be getting much of soon. So let's just exercise some patience. So we really appreciate you guys for coming. Thank you so much. We know it was really a short notice.